What I've learned from all my time of playing video games is that people will gladly use it like any other form of artistic expression. So they'll use it to make you laugh, they'll use it to make you cry, and they'll use it to make you question the fabric of human understanding.
I feel like it's becoming harder and harder to surprise people. Especially with the internet being the way it is, it seems like people are becoming desensitized to quote-unquote weird things. It's the idea that if everything is weird, then nothing is weird. Weird is the absence of normality, and when it becomes the norm, it can't really exist and it's all very confusing. But thankfully weirdness is a sliding scale, and video games tend to reflect this. Looking for weird games is like looking for a needle in a sewing shop. You'll find lots of them, but some will be sharper and longer than others. Some cultures do it better, I'm looking squarely at you, Japin, but with the sheer variety of games that people consider to be weird to choose from, we're going somewhere bizarre today. Probably bring a coat. There's two types of parodies out there. There's the deconstructive parody, where the source material is picked to pieces with an emphasis on exploring new ideas and innovations, but there's also the more traditional sense of the word, where the source material is picked to pieces with the sole purpose being to take the piss out of it. Hey, if you can't beat a competitor in a head-to-head fight, you take a sidestep and parody it instead. And Barodius just kept doing this. Next to RPGs, side-scrolling shooter games seem to be one of the best genres to fuck around with. And Barodius picked up on this pretty quickly. There's a reason why it rhymes with Gradius. It's even made by the same company. Barodius basically changes the palettes of your ship, the enemies, and the bosses from the usual space shooter spiel to this stuff. Things that you didn't ever think could be enemies and obstacles are doing precisely that in the Barodius games, but for one game, things got... yeah. Sexy Barodius is exactly what you'd think it would be. I mean, it's stupid like the other games, but with a thin layer of sexiness, where a lot of the enemies and some of the bosses are given that small dose of over-sexualized Japanese craziness. What, you're not sexually attracted to corn? You people are weird.
In a roundabout way, Sexy Barodius is a little disappointing with how restrained it is. I mean, it's still crazy, it's utterly ridiculous, but it's not as suggestive as you might think. I feel like they could have gone way further. Though, that being said, the final boss character person is a naked girl who kills the bad guy by squishing him with her butt, so can't complain.
There was a trend, and hey, research takes time, so I'll assume this is still a thing that's going on, where people were making weird simulator games in an attempt to be wacky and goofy and to get people asking questions like, is this really a game, and who would make something like this? But they're not really that crazy, are they? You can read the title and instantly know what you'll be doing for the 5 minutes you play this game before you never touch it again. But there exists a world of strange simulator games that still remains a breeding ground for crazy. None other than dating sims, of which Hatoful boyfriend is the psychotic overlord.
It's my honest held belief that if you look hard enough, you will find a game that will give you what you want. There are so many weird games out there that I'm sure there's one for everybody. But I feel that Hatoful Boyfriend is trying a little bit too hard to corner the market in dating simulators where most of the cast have been turned into pigeons.
I have this beautiful image in my mind that someone was having a really shitty day until they saw that this game is a thing that exists in the world, at which point something like, "This is exactly what I want," came out of their mouth. Hatoful Boyfriend is, from my own experiences with dating sims, which is none, honest, not that much different from any other game in this genre, but the things that are different are so hard to ignore that they completely dominate the whole feel of this game. Dating sims and who you choose to pursue in dating sims are all about the characters and the physical features and personalities that you prefer over others. This game has birds, and they never stop looking at you, with their bead little eyes that never stop looking at you. They carve a hole into your soul and never stop looking at you, seeing into the very depths of your being and never stop looking at you. Oh, and did I mention that you're a human girl in this game? Above all else, how babies happen with birds. I need an adult.
Do you remember Spore, that god game that let you create a species and follow it through its growth? A lot of people will consider some of the creatures you can make in that game to be weird and borderline creepy, but there is another game like that that practically bleeds nightmare fuel. So then, let's talk about Semen.
Get your out-of-context recorders ready because I'm going to explain in great detail what benefits there are to playing with Semen. Though it really isn't Semen like I'm sure you'd love me to say for the rest of this segment, as it's spelt like Seaman, as in man-sea creature. You know, like a merman, or fucking this! I feel like we might be going down the Hatoful boyfriend route of a relatively normal game veering towards insanity due to one small detail. But still, you can't exactly ignore the human face on these aquatic creatures you have to care for. Apparently it's the face of the game's producer. I guess he always wanted to be a manfish. But there's still more lunacy to Seaman than people's faces and a dodgy title. For some reason, the company who made this game decided that the game needed a voiceover, and then decided that the perfect person for the job was Leonard fucking Nimoy. It's a surreal enough experience when you have to look at a face all the time, but it isn't helped out by Spock helping you on your way.
You'll witness before you a phenomenon like no other.
Ah, but he isn't the only voice acting in Seaman, because this is one of the only Dreamcast games to use the microphone. That's right, you can talk to your abominations, and even better, they'll talk back and with a decent degree of voice recognition and artificial intelligence. I think that just makes it even creepier. Of all the entities in the universe that I want asking me intrusive questions, you are very far down the list. I'm not telling you shit. If you want to take anything away from this video so far, it will probably be to never let Japan do anything. I mean, okay, they gave the world some of the best video games of all time and still supply most of the world with top-notch electronics and iron and steel apparently, didn't even know that. But they've proven themselves more than capable of taking something dull and making it the most ridiculous thing you've seen in your life. Because I was just thinking the other day that horse racing could be better. It could be outstanding.
I realise that racing in general can become very boring if not treated correctly, especially in video games. I mean, Mario Kart is a thing, and a very popular thing because it's exciting and is more interesting than just racing around in a circle. But horse racing tends to get the short end of the stick and no one wants to fix it. Except of course for lovely people in Japan and their famous video game series entitled Japan World Cup.
So there's many questions I could be asking here, but I think we should rule out what and why, because those are fairly self-explanatory. The Japan World Cup games are horse racing games where you bet on horses and they race. Except some of the horses are in fact parade costumes, or yetis, or walking upright. The why is Japan. I mean, come on guys, they do this shit before breakfast. What I'm most interested in is the idea of this being considered a game. Certainly you don't do much playing, but people who bet rarely do. I'd say as long as those mini-games and party games where you bet on races like this are still considered mini-games, then the Japan World Cup series are all the games you're ever gonna need. And since we're talking about all the games together, I love how the first volume introduces its first few riders and everything's normal, but then there's Elvis Horse and a bull and a fucking giraffe, with an overexcited Japanese commentator documenting everything that happens. Probably. Truly, there has never been a more majestic sight. Virtually all the games on this list, and the vast majority of those that take up my hypothetical honourable mentions, are just games that have a few oddities about them. For one reason or another, you can consider them a little strange. The basic premise, maybe some Japanese influence, or the creator might have escaped an insane asylum. But my point is that they're all trying to be a game underneath. Which is why I was left with quite an easy decision when I remembered about LSD Dream Emulator.
In my eyes, the point of simulations is to be able to experience something that is difficult or just straight up impossible to do. That's why flight simulators are used for trainee pilots. So, I guess in a way, LSD Dream Emulator is doing the world a service. Probably.
I always thought that you could gauge the weirdness of a game by how many words it would take to sum up what the game is about. But then again, Hatoful Boyfriend is dating Sim with Bird, so it's not that good a system. LSD Dream Emulator is summed up by its title. The problem is that the things it's summing up are fucking bonkers. I mean, I've never taken LSD and I hope I never get to a stage in my life where taking LSD sounds like a good idea, but thanks to this game, I don't have to live in wonder. Thanks video games, you did it again. Next item on the agenda is trying to explain this game, and frankly, I can't. This is a game that is deliberately, from the ground, designed to be as confusing and as nonsensical as physically possible. The game doesn't explicitly say that you're experiencing an LSD trip, instead punting for "In life, the sensuous dream," or "In limbo, the silent dream." But they're not fooling anyone. Those crazy people from Japan again! The more I see of this game, the more I think that this was made for Oculus Rift. If you're really that keen on seeing what taking LSD would be like, then look around for an emulation of this with Oculus support and just take all of this in. And probably regret it when you come out with a headache. It's not exactly a good trip.
This has been RabbidLuigi, and in the search for new ideas for horror games, I think a modern reimagining of LSD Dream Emulator with modern graphics and a heavy focus on weird things is a decent idea. With the way that the horror genre is going nowadays, I'd say sort of focusing on surreal creepiness is the way to go. I think what I'm saying is more game developers need to take LSD.
Want to have a say on what I talk about next week? Leave a top 5 suggestion in the comment section below and go follow me on Twitter, where later in the week I'll be compiling the best submissions and setting up a vote over there. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that. We're starting to approach the end of 2015, and I've been thinking for a while that I would like to make a video about the best and worst games that came out this year, and there's been a lot of both. So if you've got any suggestions for those topics, that'll be a good thing to do. It'd be very helpful. Anyway, Twitter, Facebook, probably some other things I always forget about, but it's really cold. It's really fucking cold in here. I don't want to stay in here for too long. Winter is a-coming, people. Batten down those hatches.